College football fans, black and gold fans, welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is my reaction and recap to Iowa's 12-10 loss. That's right, 12-10 loss on Saturday at home against Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. With the win, Minnesota improves to 4-3 overall, 2-2 in Big Ten Conference play. And with the loss, number 24 Iowa, who is no longer ranked, they fall to 6-2 overall and 3-2 in Big Ten Conference play. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to the party here. We were driving back from Florida. I meant to do this Saturday or Sunday night, then maybe Monday night, but I just didn't have the time. But I'm kind of glad I did, because I've had a little bit of extra time, guys, to lament and ponder on this loss, look at it from all angles and sides and points of view. And my opening thoughts and statements on this game is that still just really sucked. Just did. I hate to say that I told you so, guys, but hey, I told you so. If you watched my instant reaction and recap 2 weeks ago to the big Iowa win up in Madison against Wisconsin, it was a great victory by Iowa. There was a lot to celebrate and to look forward to. I know a lot of news outlets, a lot of media, fans basically claiming the West has already been won. It's Iowa's. I told you all to pump the brakes on that, because I told you this team was going to lose at least one, if not two more games, because their offense is just not sustainable. And I'll talk more about that later. Something else I want to say is congratulations to Minnesota and Coach PJ Fleck. He finally gets that monkey off his back. Because with the loss, the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy, the Divine Swine, is going to be heading north to the Twin Cities after 8 long years being in Iowa City. Floyd's going to have to change his address. He had been here for quite a while. And that ends that 8-game losing streak against Iowa for Minnesota, and also the 0-7 lifetime for PJ Fleck against Iowa. So congratulations to the bald-headed beauty in Minnesota. And just what a game. And I'm going to say this as well, and I'm definitely going to talk more about it, because the main talking point all week, and right from the exact moment that it went down, that very, very iffy, suspect, fair catch call. I'm going to say this right now, Iowa fans. And if some of you, this might irritate, it might rub you the wrong way, maybe even piss you off. I might lose a couple subscribers over this, but I'll talk more about it later. But initially, I'm just going to say this. That fair catch, call it what you may, whether it was a good call, awful call, and I'll get to it later in this episode, that is not the reason why Iowa lost this game. It's just not, and I'll dissect that here in a little bit. So let's get right into the nitty-gritty of this loss. I've watched a lot of Iowa football in my time. I mean, I'm 42 years old. I became a fan when I was 7 or 8 years old, so I've watched a lot of games. This might be the rock bottom of bottom as far as Iowa's offense. This might be one of the worst ever, if not the worst ever effort that I have ever seen Iowa play. The entire offense should be completely embarrassed about how they played. I mean, yeah, they showed up. They had their helmets on. They just rolled them out there on the field, but did not play at all. Nobody stood out on the offensive side of the ball. They just didn't. One of the worst games I can remember ever watching, even during the bad times. During the off years of the mid to late 90s under Coach Hayden Fry at the end of his tenure, and early in the Kirk Ferentz tenure. 2005, I remember that year. All right, some of the down years we've had. at least they would look good losing. The effort was there, maybe just the talent and experience, but this was the worst loss. I'm going to say it right now. This was the worst loss I've ever seen. And I told you guys after last week's recap episode of following the Wisconsin game that this game was the biggest game of the year for Iowa. And it was monumental. It was epic for them to have to come out ready to play, refocused, not up here on cloud nine, listening to how good they were, how the division's theirs. They had to come out refocused and regrouped. Obviously did not do that. Offense, I'm just going to talk right now. I mean, Deacon Hill, none of this is personal. And guys, I'm going to just give me about 20 minutes max on this. It's late at night. And thank you for all of your continued support, everybody. Please, I always ask and request and welcome your participation. Iowa fans, college football fans, please comment, like, share, subscribe. Let your voice be heard about this game, the Iowa offense, the defense, the invalid fair catch signal. I can't wait to hear from all of you, and I promise I will get back to you. Please subscribe. Let's keep the channel growing. But Deacon Hill, not personal. I'm sure he's a nice dude, but he is not a Power 5 conference quarterback. He's just not. Driving back from Florida, going through some towns, I remember seeing Valdosta State, they're in Montgomery, and then we get into Nashville. There's Tennessee Tech, there's Austin Peay, the Governors, that he probably wouldn't even be starting on those teams. He just wouldn't be. And maybe he hasn't played a lot of football recently. I mean, he redshirted his senior year of high school, all right? He only played in one game last year up at Wisconsin, but obviously he is not a quarterback. He is not. And getting back to just how bad this Iowa offense is, it was never anything like this last year with Spencer Petras. I never would have thought I'd hear myself be saying this, but Spencer does have 1 year of eligibility left. Maybe he's halfway in game shape. Maybe he should just strap him back on, get out there. Because at least he would miss, but they would definitely be better with Spencer Petras right now. They just would be. But Deacon, this was his third start of the year. Obviously, he was pressed into the starting job with Caden McNamara going down. So obviously there was going to be some learning curves, all right? You just can't expect the guy to go in there and be, Steamin' Willie Beeman-like, right? Or Kurt Warner-like, right? You can't. But his third start, he came into the game only with a 38% completion rate. And following this game, it actually decreased even more. He's just not getting it done. His throws are consistently high and long, and they are missing. And I mean missing big time. To the point to where even the defenders, they turn around out of their coverage like, whoa, how the hell did that ball end up here? And 2 weeks ago, he was applauded for not turning the ball over at Wisconsin, but that ultimately was one of the dooms for Iowa today. They had 3 turnovers, and all 3 were really directly done by Deacon Hill. 2 fumbles, both of those came in Iowa territory. Okay, 2 lost fumbles and that interception on their last drive to try to get in field goal range. But yeah, his misses are not even catchable by the defense. They're just not, all right? And I don't think that's going to get any better whatsoever. It's just not. Offensively, 127 yards total today for Iowa. That is absolutely abysmal. That's even pre-junior high. That's like peewee football. Okay, that's Pop Warner numbers offense. 127 127 total yards is all that they could muster today. I mean, and when you look at that in depth even more, it's even worse. I mean, Deacon ended up throwing for 116 yards, no touchdowns, that pick, as I mentioned. But Iowa's rushing attack, which the last 2 to 3 weeks, they really started to get a little bit of traction, all right? And that was really they're going to have to bear the burden and the load of this offense the rest of the season. And they absolutely just did not show up. I mean, they were non-combatants in this game. They just were, the Iowa rushing attack. But that's really not just the running backs themselves, Caleb Johnson, LaShawn Williams, Ja'Zion Patterson, but also the offensive line, which was just horrid. I mean, nobody came out ready to play today, all right? And the Iowa rushing, as a team, rushing yards, 11 yards total, average 0.4 per rush. I mean, there was a time in the second half, I believe Iowa was negative 8 or 9 yards rushing total in the second half. And just to let you know further how bad the offense is or was on Saturday, second half, they only gained 12 total yards. So nobody performed. Nobody. The player of the game, I mean, for both teams, ended up being Minnesota's field goal kicker. He was 4 for 4. Dragan Kisich, 4 for 4. That's all the points. That's all the scores Minnesota needed. I mean, the Iowa defense once again showed up and showed out. I mean, they held an opponent out of the end zone yet again. If you hold the visiting team to no touchdowns at home, you should win those games. But obviously not today. So he's the player of the game. For Iowa, I mean, Tory Taylor continues to just do what he does. The guy's all world. I mean, 9 punts along of 57 yards, averaged just over 49 yards a kick. He did have 1 touchback, which incredibly, all of the times we've seen him punt this season, guys, that's only his 2nd touchback all year. I mean, that is control right there and then some. So that's the only really star of the game. And when you look at it, I think how PJ Fleck was finally able to get over the Iowa hump is he absolutely out-Iowa'd Iowa. He did, with taking what the defense was giving him, taking those field goal opportunities, winning the turnover battle, and that's what it came down to. Minnesota had 0 turnovers. I mean, definitely the 2 worst offenses in the Big Ten in this matchup. I mean, Ethan Kaliakmanis, the Minnesota quarterback, who's not good, he went 10 for 25, only 126 yards passing, but no turnovers. And the special teams, that's what it was. So PJ Fleck finally figures out how to beat his nemesis by out Kirk Ferentzing Kirk Ferentz. And that's really what it was. Yeah, but this Iowa offense, I just look at this and say, can this get any worse? I think it can, but it's really hard to imagine. I mean, I already said 12 yards in the second half, all right? Now, that touchdown drive that Iowa had right before the end of the second half, I'm listening to this game on the beach. I just gotten out of the Gulf of Mexico, kind of drying off in the sun, enjoying a cocktail with my wife who's there listening to the game like I am. And that touchdown drive, it covered 46 yards, okay? But this is what it took to score, to get the ball in the end zone. And thanks to my brother who sent me this breakdown, it really just summarizes the Iowa offense. So this is how that drive went down, guys. Play by play, this is how that touchdown drive unfolded. It started with a 4-yard run, followed by a 2-yard run. Next play, there was a face mask, which resulted in a sack on 3rd down, but it was an automatic 1st down, so a penalty bailed Iowa out there. Then there came a 4-yard run. Next play, a pass interference on Minnesota on a ball that wasn't even close. So there's 15 more yards given to Iowa. Then there was a 2-yard run, a 0-yard QB sneak from inside the 1, and that was followed by another 0-yard quarterback sneak. But at the end of that play, there was an unsportsmanlike conduct call, another 15-yard penalty type, which was half the distance to the goal, an automatic first down. And then that was followed by a 1-yard quarterback sneak touchdown. So it really was given to Iowa because Minnesota imploded. And when I was listening to that, I turned to my wife and I said, honey, this is where it turns, is that Iowa is going to just find a way to out Iowa Minnesota again. Minnesota is going to have some turnovers. They're losing the penalty battle. I mean, PJ Fleck is going to implode and just beat himself again, but obviously it didn't turn out that way. So that's just how bad this is. And Iowa has an off week, and I'll talk more about this in a little bit as far as where we go from here. But if Deacon Hill is their best option right now, when you have Joe Labus, who by all reports is now fully healthy, this guy missed a lot of practice, a lot of camp in the summer and the fall due to a soft tissue injury. He is back. He's healthy. He's the number 2 man right now on the depth chart. I mean, there is no reason why Iowa should not put him out there. I mean, the guy has one career start that came against Kentucky in last year's Music City Bowl. Actually, it's this year's Music City Bowl. It was a victory. I mean, he didn't do great, but he didn't do bad. He did lead Iowa on 1 touchdown drive. He didn't turn the ball over. He did exactly what you're supposed to do. Be a good game manager, take what they give you, and don't put your offense and your defense in a bad position. Ball security and be smart with it. And he did fine in that bowl game, all right? If I look at it like this, if you can sit there and say to me that Joe Labus gives no reward whatsoever or no potential growth to put him in there at quarterback, then I don't know what's up and what's down right now, because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So Iowa goes into the bye week, and maybe it's a good time to really resettle, refocus, and definitely get healthy. They are so banged up. And I know those injuries definitely limit this already limited offense, with both of your stud tight ends being hurt for the season, Eric All and Luke Lachey, Cade McNamara being out. But still, I mean, it's hard to say that there's just 1 or 2 or 3 things wrong with this offense. I know a lot of you Iowa fans say, oh, the easiest way to fix this or what they need to do on the off week is fire Brian Ferentz. Some of you really believe, Iowa fans, that letting Brian go and then like that overnight, that the Iowa offense is going to be fixed? It's not. And if you think that, then you're living in a dream world, Neo. This offense is so shattered and fractured, it's everywhere. That is not going to change anything. I mean, the coaching staff is inept. The scheme just doesn't fit the personnel, or maybe it's just too damn complicated. The roster, these players, they have some accountability here too, because they are not performing at the level they need to perform or what we expect them to perform at. The scheme, the players, the roster, everything. I mean, it's completely broken. And if you replace Brian with an interim OC, it's not like that person's going to have a brand new playbook, okay, or brand new roster. Hey, let's bring in the walk-ins now. It's going to be the same until the end of this season. We just need to ride it out. That's what we can do. We've made our beds. We need to face the music and sleep in it. We just do. But yeah, I think that if we don't see Joe Labus in 2 weeks against Northwestern, a Northwestern team that we should be able to defeat, but a Northwestern team that is not packed it in for the season. They're playing very inspired with the loss of their head coach pre-kickoff season. with the scandal that went on there, this is not going to be an easy game. I mean, no game for Iowa is going to be easy. It never is, regardless of the year. But if we don't see Joe Labus in there just for a couple of series, then I'm going to say that following Monday morning, every one of those coaches, their asses should be fired. I think you let it be public. You say we are going to play both quarterbacks. I mean, it's very easy to say, okay, Joe Labus, you're the starter, but Deacon Hill, he should get the start, but be kept on a very short leash after 2 series if there's no improvement. Get Joe Labus out there and just roll with it. See what you got. So then they can split the snaps evenly during the bye week, get Joe up to speed, and that's what they need to do. And if I really don't think that's going to happen. I still think that Deacon is going to be the only quarterback we'll see in the Northwestern game, but you've got to get Joe out there. If he does not out there, he is going to leave in 2 months, transfer out, and sayonara to him. And he should leave, because if he doesn't get on the field now, he ain't never getting on the field. He's just not. So finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about that invalid fair catch play. I mean, I know all of you are up in arms, and I'm going to say this as a fan, a Iowa fan and a fan only. From that perspective, yes, it was very difficult to stomach that call, all right? When we thought Cooper DeJean was going to get it done yet again, another Heisman-type moment. And if that would have stood, that would have been his second game-winning punt return. That guy was going to then be in the Heisman Trophy talk. He would have been. So a play that never really happened, never really existed, will never be forgotten because of the fallout from it. That I don't know if it was a good or a bad call. I mean, it was a very good explanation by the refs, all right, as far as the invalid fair catch. It is a rule. It has been called before, but it's not called every season. It looks bad because it's never called right now, but it does happen occasionally, and that is really the ref's discretion, all right? It sucks, but Iowa still had chances to get into field goal range. And quite frankly, if you muster only 127 yards, Iowa fans, you don't deserve to win. You just don't, all right? I feel terrible for the players. I always root for the players and for us fans, I do. But this loss is totally on the coaching staff for their inept ability to be able to recruit, to develop, to put anything on the field that resembles a working offense. All right? So I feel terrible for you fans and the players, like I said, but, you know, it was tough to watch. But when you look at it subjectively and objectively, the call was the call. And it was. And I know a lot of people out there are whining and bitching and complaining. You have your opinion. I understand it, but I just don't back it. And a lot of people who are fans of other programs, right, saying, oh, stop your whining, stop your crying, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. But if that was your team that it happened to, you'd be doing the exact same thing, and you would. All right? Don't deny it. But that's why Iowa lost the game. 127 yards, 3 turnovers, 2 of those in Iowa territory, 1 inside the 10-yard line. And the Iowa defense only gives up 4 field goals on the day. That's why you lose. That's it. And also to Iowa fans, throwing debris on the field when that punt return was waved off, I get it. You were disappointed, frustrated, maybe even angry. I understand you. I sympathize with you. I am there. But doing that showed very, very poor class. It did. Next time, think about it. Now, primarily, most of it did come from the student section area, all right? But still, we can't be doing that as fans. It was an awful look for us on national television. It was. So next time, just think about that. So where we go from here, like I said, Iowa has a bye week, and with that loss to Minnesota, gone is Floyd of Rosedale, but also Iowa's advantage in the West. I mean, they still have every opportunity to get it done. Wisconsin came back and won in the fourth quarter, a huge rally at Illinois. They're very much alive still. They take over first in the division, but they're going to lose to Ohio State this weekend. They will. Minnesota now has the tiebreaker head-to-head against Iowa. And I said preseason that Iowa right now, the Minnesota game is the last game of the four game biggest stretch of their season. Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern. And I said, if they went 3-1 during these 4 games, they would have an excellent chance to win the division. But I said if they could go 4-0, they would absolutely win the division. So they still have a good opportunity. But it would have been much better to win that game and possibly win in 2 weeks up in the Windy City at historic Wrigley Field at the Friendly Confines. But we'll have to wait and see. Still plenty of football left to play in the West. That's pretty much all I really have to say. And that it is getting more and more difficult to watch these games as an Iowa fan. I will always watch. I will always root and cheer. But it is getting a little bit more difficult on the eyes. It just is. But hang in there, Hawk fans. Support the team. They need you now more than ever. Keep your heads up. And maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe this offense can halfway turn it around. 250 yards a game I'd be happy with right now. But, yeah, difficult loss. But, hey, the sun ain't gonna shine anymore. But there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. That's right. So anyway, guys, I'll let you go on that. It's late at night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for being here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I can't wait to hear your comments. Get involved. Like, share, subscribe, rate. Look for me. I'll see you guys later this week on Thursday with my Week 9 preview and picks episode. So until then, talk to you soon. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. See ya. Bye-bye.